Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we'll examine the life of a famous serial killer who, for some terrible reason, came to internet fame. Yes, today's discussion will center on Jeffrey Dahmer's criminal life. 3 weeks after graduating in 1978, Dahmer committed his first murder. On June 18th, Stephen Mark Hicks, a hitchhiker who was almost 19 years old, was picked up by Dahmer. Dahmer enticed the young man to his home under the guise of drinking. Hicks, who'd been hitchhiking to a rock concert at Chippewa Lake Park, Ohio, agreed to go with Dahmer to his house in exchange for a couple of beers, as Dahmer had the house to himself. Dahmer claimed that when he saw Hicks standing by the side of the road with his chest exposed, it made him feel attracted to him sexually. However, when Hicks started talking about girls, he realized that any attempts would be rejected. Hicks wanted to leave, and I didn't want him to leave, after spending a number of hours socializing, drinking, and enjoying music. Hicks was struck by Dahmer with a 10-pound dumbbell. Later, he said that while Hicks was seated in a chair, he attacked him twice from behind with a dumbbell. When Hicks lost consciousness, Dahmer strangled him with a dumbbell's bar. He then removed Hicks from his clothes, raked his chest with his hands, and masturbated over his body. Dahmer dragged the body to the basement. The body of Hicks was dissected by Dahmer the next day in his basement. He eventually buried the bodies in his backyard in a little burial. He uncovered the remains and separated the flesh from the bones a few weeks later. He used acid to disintegrate the flesh before flushing the mixture down the toilet. He used a sledgehammer to break the bones. Then he dispersed them in the woods behind the family house. Dahmer enrolled in college that fall, but was unable to finish because of his alcoholism. After that, his father pushed him into joining the military, and from 1979 to 1981, he worked as a combat doctor in Germany. But he never managed to break the habit, and after being released that spring, he returned to Ohio. His father sent him to live with his grandmother in West Allis, Wisconsin, as his drinking continued to cause issues. By 1985, he was a regular at gay bathhouses, where he'd take drugs to knock men out so he could rape them while they were asleep. Despite having been detained twice for indecent exposure in 1982 and 1986, he was simply given probation and not charged with the rapes. His second victim, Stephen Tuomi, was killed in September 1987. He was picked up by Dahmer from a pub, driven back to a motel, and found there the next morning was Tuomi's bruised corpse. Later, he claimed that he didn't remember killing Tuomi, suggesting that he'd done it on the spur of the moment while unconscious. But when Dahmer awakened the following morning, Tuomi was on the bed under him, his chest bruised and black and blue. Aside from having a bloody mouth corner, Dahmer also had severely battered fists and one forearm. Dahmer initially told police that he had no recollection of killing Tuomi, and he subsequently told detectives that he could not believe this had happened. Dahmer bought a sizable suitcase and brought Tuomi's body to his grandmother's house to be disposed of. After separating the torso from the head, arms, and legs a week later, he filleted the body's bones before chopping the meat into manageable chunks. Then, Dahmer put the meat in waste bags made of plastic. He used a sledgehammer to smash the bones into splinters after wrapping them in a sheet. Approximately 2 hours were needed for Dahmer to complete the dismemberment. With the exception of the chopped head, he disposed of all of Tuomi's remains in the garbage. After Tuomi, the killings continued infrequently, with 4 victims in 1990 and 2 each in 1988 and 1989. He kept luring naive men from bars and asking for prostitutes, who he would then drug, rape, and strangle. On March 24, 1988, outside the Phoenix homosexual bar, Dahmer encountered Richard Guerrero, a 22-year-old bisexual guy. Guerrero was lured to his grandmother's house by Dahmer, but this time the reward was just $50 to spend the rest of the night with him. Guerrero was then sedated with sleeping medications before being strangled with a leather strap, and Dahmer engaged in oral sex with the corpse. Dahmer disassembled Guerrero's body within 24 hours after murdering him, throwing the remains in the trash and keeping the skull for several months before smashing it. However, at this point, Dahmer also started doing particularly gruesome acts with their corpses, continuing to use them for sex, documenting the process with photographs, carefully preserving the skulls and genitalia of his victims for exhibition, and even keeping pieces for consumption. Dahmer was detained during this time for drugging and sexually harassing a 13-year-old child while working at the Ambrosia chocolate factory. For this, he received a 5-year probationary term, a year in a work release program, and was compelled to register as a sex offender. After finishing the labor program 2 months early, he moved into an apartment in Milwaukee in May 1990. There, despite going to his probation officer's scheduled appointments, he would continue to be free to carry out 4 murders that year and 8 more in 1991. By the summer of 1991, Dahmer had started to murder 1 victim approximately every week. He developed a fascination with the concept that he might transform his victims into zombies, who would then serve as young, subservient sexual partners. He employed a variety of methods, including cutting holes in their skulls and pumping boiling water or hydrochloric acid into their brains. Soon, Dahmer's apartment was the source of weird noises and foul odors that neighbors started to complain about. In one case, a lobotomized victim who was left unattended even managed to make it outside and ask multiple passers-by for assistance. But when Dahmer came back, he was able to persuade the cops that the bizarre young man was only his drunk partner. Dahmer nearly avoided death for a little while longer because the officers neglected to conduct a background investigation that would have revealed his position as a serial sex offender. Dahmer lured Tracy Edwards into his house on July 22, 1991, with a promise of money in exchange for her services. Dahmer then used a butcher's knife to force Edwards into the bedroom. Edwards managed to break free during the battle and make his way outside, where he flagged down a passing police vehicle. Edwards informed the police that there was a knife in Dahmer's bedroom when they arrived at the residence. The officers finally managed to take Dahmer into custody after discovering the image of severed limbs and dead victims in the bedroom. They discovered further human remains in his refrigerator after conducting additional searches of the house, including more decapitated heads, 3 other heads scattered throughout the apartment, and numerous pictures of the victims. 7 skulls in total, together with a human heart in the freezer, were discovered in his flat. In his closet, an altar was also built using candles and human skulls. Dahmer confessed and started telling the authorities the graphic details of his killings after being taken into custody. On January 30th, 1992, the trial for Dahmer, who was charged with 15 murders, started. Dahmer claimed insanity as his defense, despite the overwhelming evidence against him, because of the nature of his profoundly frightening and uncontrollable desires. He was found to be insane and guilty of 15 charges of murder after a 2-week trial. He received 15 life sentences, totaling 957 years in prison. He pleaded guilty to the murder of Stephen Hicks in May of that same year and was given an additional life sentence. At the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin, Dahmer served his sentence. Dahmer professed regret for his deeds and made suicide wishes when he was incarcerated. He also said he had read the Bible and was a born-again Christian, prepared for his last judgment. He was attacked twice by other prisoners, with the first attempting to slice open his neck, only inflicting minor injuries. On November 28, 1994, though, a prisoner attacked him once more as they were cleaning one of the showers. Dahmer was discovered alive but passed away from severe head injuries while being transported to the hospital. So guys, that's it for today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments section your thoughts on whether Dahmer received the deserved punishment or not, and also what you'd like to see in the next video. We'll be back soon with another video, but until then, take care.